This is Rogers TV, Durham Region. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. I'm Deborah Hutchison in the Rogers TV studio. Our guest this week is joining us via Zoom from Uxbridge. He is Uxbridge Mayor Dave Barton. Welcome back to the show.
Deborah, great to hear from you again. A lot's happened since we spoke last.
Yeah, I'll say. The last time we spoke, I think it was at the height of the uptick in the number of COVID cases. You know, and at that point you had said with your wife, a doctor at Markham Stouffville, you had no doubt that at some point throughout this, you were going to get COVID. You've been healthy as a family so far. Knock wood, fingers crossed. Has that surprised you?
So, you know what surprised me, what I'm very thankful for is when this pandemic took hold, that the entire public, whether it's in Uxbridge or Oshawa or anywhere in Canada, we took it seriously and we were able to flatten the curve the way we said which was the goal, and we were able to stop it in its tracks. And we certainly did that in Uxbridge. We've had a total of 110 cases. We got down to zero, and we held at zero for probably 30 days or so. So things were looking very, very positive. Now with things opening up slowly, feels quickly right now with school and with sports and everything else, we're seeing those numbers tick back up again. Yesterday was, I think, 350 cases in the province. I think we're maybe 250 today. So we've done really, really well. We've kept healthy as a family. My wife is taking this obviously very seriously at work. But now it's time to be careful again. I think we all got a little bit lax. I think it's time to lock down to make sure we're staying away from those vulnerable people, our parents and grandparents, and those with health conditions. We need to lock them, keep them isolated, unfortunately, and be really careful once again.
The majority of your cases, have they been elderly patients in long-term care?
Yes. So we had a major outbreak in one of our long-term care facilities. I believe it was 88 cases there, and there was a number of deaths, unfortunately. And then we had a couple, some other cases, but not an outbreak like that anywhere else. So that's been the vast majority so far. The last couple have been like a community spread case, and we don't have those ages. I don't get all of that health information, but again, it's time to take this thing seriously. We need to keep it out of those vulnerable sectors because we know how deadly this virus can be.
I don't know about you, but the more I'm out and about, the more I notice people suddenly not wearing masks, and I just have to shake my head. Are you finding the same up in Uxbridge, or by and large, it's everybody complying?
You know what? It's certainly indoors. I see the vast majority of people complying. Outside, I think it's a mix, and it probably should be. So certainly from my perspective, when I'm out in the open air and I'm physically distant, I'm not wearing a mask. And it's pretty easy to be 6 feet from people here in Uxbridge. There's not a significant amount of traffic, and we're all pretty polite. So if you run into someone on the trail, it's pretty easy to give them the 6 feet.
Now, of course, council meetings will remain virtual throughout 2020. The challenges of making that work, how well is it working, or are there challenges? Are you dying to be back face to face?
You know what I'm finding is that the virtual council meetings are very, very effective. Occasionally one of us will have some sort of connectivity issue. We're getting used to, sorry, you're on mute. I think that's coming out of my mouth quicker than I'd like it to. But they are functional council meetings. It feels like we're all in the same room. We're having good, solid, open conversation. We keep our cameras on. almost all the time unless we're having connectivity issues. And it's going fairly well. At my last council meeting, I ran into some connection issues. I stepped out of the meeting. My deputy mayor, Willie Pop, jumped in, and it went really, really well. So, 95% of it's great. 5% is a little frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, we are taping this September 15th. Your last meeting was the 14th, and it was a long one.
It was. And it's funny, I did a radio interview this morning talking about what we talked about at council, and almost none of it really was important to a greater audience, but it was all of critical importance to the neighbors around those properties. So that's part of being on council, is you're making decisions that affect people's lives. And sometimes it's 5 people that really, really care, and sometimes it's 5,000 people. It just depends.
Well, let's talk about that meeting yesterday before we move on to some other things. A lot of time was spent on the Dominion Avenue land division. If you can quickly go over what that discussion was about.
Okay, so we talked about First and Dominion, and that's our old residential area. Beautiful century houses for the most part in that area. And there was one corner, and a couple purchased it, and they want to sever the land. Originally they wanted to put in a big, really nice, big, beautiful modern house, but it didn't fit in with the neighborhood. It didn't meet our zoning requirements, and they pulled their application when they didn't feel it was going to go well. They rejigged it with a smaller house, but it's still really, really tight, and it's such an important residential neighborhood for us that we didn't feel comfortable moving forward. It's not our final decision, but we are not supporting that application when it goes to land division. So we had to reword the motion, the recommendations from our planner, and we have sent that on to the region. Again, we have a beautiful heritage area in Uxbridge, and we need to make sure we protect it. And part of that is making sure that you're not cutting up lots so that they lose kind of what's important to those neighbors. And this is kitty corner to the Sam Sharp house. And Sam was a lawyer. He was a commander in the 116th. If I got that number wrong, my veterans will never forgive me, but I believe it's in the 116th Regiment. And we've since, very recently, he has been recognized for all he did. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, just during the First World War, his regiment suffered significant casualties, and he took his own life when he arrived back in Canada. And he was a sitting MP. He looked after that regiment and took his own life. And it was never acknowledged the sacrifices that he made. Now there's a courthouse in Oshawa named after him. He has a large sculpture on our downtown streets, and there is a bust of him in Centre Block in the Parliament in Ottawa. So we finally recognized him. This is where his house was at First and Dominion. It's kitty corner to that. It's an important neighborhood for us. And that's why it took up so much time yesterday. And Deborah, thanks for watching. It would have been a long time. I apologize.
I did. So there was a lot of discussion on symbols of hatred following up, you say, after a Black Lives Matter rally.
So we had a lovely Black Lives Matter rally right in front of my office on Toronto Street. We probably maxed out at maybe 50 people there, signage, young families. It was a very, very positive experience, but there was 2 negative things that happened. A few people in a pickup truck with a Confederate flag drove by numerous times and shouted some nasty things at their windows. And then one person with a White Lives Matter sign stood across from them. Overall, it was a great positive experience. We had some people who were at that rally who were extremely offended, rightfully so, mm-hmm. who came to our council and asked us to ban those symbols. And we've been talking about it since. And we have a bylaw almost ready to go. Our staff wanted permission from council to continue to move forward with that and a couple little items. And we supported those recommendations yesterday. It's important in Uxbridge, and it's important in Durham region and everywhere else. It's important to make sure that everyone who lives in my community feels comfortable in their own skin. And if we can make changes to our bylaws to make people feel more comfortable with who they are and what they look like, it's of critical importance to us.
So where does the proposed bylaw, you say it's almost ready to go, what's the process? Where does it go from here?
Oh, we just need to finalize it. We need to run it through a couple legal representatives, and then it'll come back to council. I'm thinking in somewhere between 60 and 120 days is my thoughts.
Okay. So let's move on to more COVID stuff. We've only got a couple of minutes left. We spoke recently about the impending second wave, which has an ongoing effect on every municipality's financials, and Uxbridge is not immune. The pool and the arena has been affected. The arena's not opening.
The arena isn't opening yet. So let's first talk about the pool. And we run a deficit either way. If we open it or if we close it. We decided as a council to open it. It opened last week, maybe a week and a half ago. And it was basically $8,000 per month more expensive to open it than leave it closed. We thought that was a valuable investment, but want to make sure that the numbers make sense at the end of the day. So we that what the projections said actually take place. So we've temporarily opened it. We're going to revisit this on October the 5th to make sure that we've made the right choices. And certainly our goal is to have everything that we can safely open. We just have to manage the finances around it. Now, from a hockey perspective, or skating the arena, we had a report from staff that talked about what the deficits were going to be. We didn't feel we had enough information. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago at council, and we wanted to take another look at it. So we delayed the opening. We're getting more information, including a full financial picture of where we're at today, our status report, so that we know how we're going to move forward. Since then, we've heard from lots of different residents, lots of hockey parents, and then average citizens. And we need to make sure that it makes sense when we turn on the ice. It's probably in for the whole year. We need to make sure we're making the right decision. And a lot of this revolves around our finances. So we need to make sure that hockey's paying for hockey or skating's paying for skating, and that the people that have lost their jobs and are struggling to pay their taxes are not funding the arena in a more significant way. We've met with the North Durham Hockey Association, and they understand our issues, and we're working together to try and spread out the risk. So we're not taking all the risk, that they absorb some of that with us. And we also make sure that if there's a way to become more efficient and get more people on the ice quicker and less downtime, that serves them, it serves us. So anyway, there's lots of conversations happening. We will know more in the next week or two, and then hopefully we can get the kids back on the ice safely.
Okay, I'm going to have to hold you there. We have to go to a break. More with Mayor Dave Barton after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
Victory they needed and a victory they got.
I'm Don Reese. Join me each week for Pathways to Success as I speak with individuals, young and old, who have successfully overcome or are overcoming disabilities. That's Pathways to Success, only on Rogers TV.
You're invited to join us on the couch, first Tuesday of the month for the 5th anniversary season of your loved local LGBTQ talk show.
We are back. This is Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Uxbridge Mayor Dave Barton, who joins us via Zoom. When we went to break, we were talking about the financial impact, Mayor, of COVID-19. Let's talk about that financial impact a little more. You recently got a portion of relief funding from the government's welcome dollars, I'm sure. How will it be used, and is it enough?
So it's probably not enough. We've spent about $650,000 on COVID so far, and that's PPE. It's converting to virtual workspaces and then switching to cloud-based computing and everything else. So we've spent about 650. We got 489. Plus, we have significant losses at all of our facilities. So we're down about 1.5 to 1.7 in revenue. Now, we did something different than most municipalities. We cut operating costs. So we laid off people really, really quickly, including about 10% of our full-time staff, which was really, really difficult to do. But we wanted to make sure we tried to contain COVID, the financial impact of COVID during COVID. We wanted to make sure all of our infrastructure projects kept going. There's never been a better time when there's no cars on the road to pave roads. Mm-hmm. When facilities are shut down, it's the right time to do maintenance on them. So that's why we kept those infrastructure projects up. It's been really hard on all of us, and our staff that are still here are working really, really hard. So we're trying to manage those priorities. Now, in the end, we're going to get a full financial picture on October the 5th. But our projections were a $70,000 deficit, which is pretty small when you think of the Southern guys. Mm-hmm. And we're filling that gap as effectively as we can to make sure that we're as close to break even as we can be while keeping up all of our infrastructure projects.
So, of course, municipalities are not allowed to run a deficit. Going forward, I've asked this of all the mayors, are tax increases inevitable given the situation?
So when you're Uxbridge and you have the lowest growth in the GTA, and we have and costs continue to go up for us, tax increases are sort of a way of life here. We try to be as responsible with our finances as we can be, but there's always going to be some tax increases. COVID hasn't made it any easier, and we're trying to manage that as we go. Now, we've gotten way more efficient because of the technology. And our CAO, which I think we talked about before, she comes from the IT world. So she's learning how to integrate systems and try and eliminate some processes that we don't need to do. So I think the right size of our workforce long-term might be a little bit different. And we're going to try and deal with this and be as efficient as we can. I'm hoping that from a COVID perspective, there's not any significant additional increases, but it's really too soon to tell.
Okay. And of course, you mentioned that infrastructure projects continued over COVID. One of them is the culvert. Notice this weekend there's still a road closure there. What's the update?
So we had scheduled to have the road open by the end of September. We're feeling it's gonna be at least a couple weeks delayed. The weather that we've experienced in the last month has been significant, where we'll get a couple inches of rainfall very quickly. Mm-hmm. And every time that happens, it puts us a couple of days behind. So we're hoping for kind of mid-October for an opening. And then the project should be complete before the end of 2020.
And I'm sure people are just, itching to have that downtown reopened. And in a tough time, of course. You're looking at downtown revitalization, once the streets are all open. What are the businesses there telling you? How hard have they been hit by COVID?
So it depends on the business. We have the amazing Roxy Theater that hasn't shown a movie since March, right? So obviously businesses like that aren't allowed to be open from a COVID perspective, it's been really hard. They haven't reopened with the new information, the new requirements from the province yet. So they're hurting. We have other people like our local butcher shop who's doing really, really well. And there's a mix, everything in between. Long term, we need to drive traffic into our downtown. We've been in a floodplain since floodplains existed, so we weren't allowed to build anything new in the downtown. That's going to change when this culvert project is over. And this whole downtown revitalization project that was funded, it was a RED, Rural Economic Development Grant from the province. This is going to help us to know what types of businesses should be down there and how we should be planning our downtown. So there's a lot of great news coming. We just need to work on make sure that we're giving future business owners the best advice possible on what should be down there.
Yeah, and when you talk about driving business downtown, parking to me is always an issue as well.
No question. Since I've been on council, we've added about 45 spots in downtown Uxbridge, which has made a big difference. So at the moment, you can park downtown Uxbridge any day, all day, almost anywhere you choose. That has not been an obstacle during this construction project, and I don't foresee it being an obstacle moving forward. We just have to, I think we need to redevelop some of the vacant land down there and get people living and working in downtown Uxbridge. That would be a significant business driver for the community, a lot like what the town of Whitby's trying to do in their downtown.
Let's talk also about the new medical center, an update there. That's
Sure.
Exciting news.
This is extremely exciting news. So we got permission to plan for a new hospital. So that was a planning grant from the province a number of months ago. And we've been doing that. We've submitted our application for a new hospital, and it is connected with a long-term care facility. So it's going to be a seamless healthcare system. And in parallel to that, another major part of that is a medical office building. So we're moving some of our hospital facilities into this medical office building, which is actually privately owned. So it's a perfect public-private partnership in that area that will be added to when we actually develop this new hospital. It's exciting times. They're well on their way to the construction. They've got the steel in, and it's moving along really, really well so far.
I'm sure you can't wait until everything is up and running. Any delays there because of COVID?
With that project?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they're delayed on that from a COVID perspective at all. It took them a little while to get permits done and things like that, just kind of regular construction delays, but that's moving along really, really well. And I don't know if I said it before, but it's actually owned by our local physicians. So we have the doctors buying into our health system, which means that they're planning to be here for a long, long time. And it will be something that will be a part of Uxbridge healthcare moving forward.
Let's also talk about, I have to ask you this, there's been a bear spotted up in Uxbridge as well.
So, you know what? Being in Uxbridge means that there's wildlife. So, I live on the edge of town here, and we know that there's bear in the area. The Trans-Canada Trail heads just past my house and up to the north. And we know that there's bear in those areas as well. There's been one just on the edge of town here for a while. Certainly when you get into the more rural communities, a couple minutes out of town, they're there all the time. It continues to shock, residents that live in sort of subdivisions when there will be a bear that wanders fairly close to their houses. It's just part of the deal. We also had a moose last year that was photographed, right beside a condo. So this happens, and there's been sightings in Zephyr and all over the place. So Uxbridge is becoming more wild, and I don't think it's just my facial hair.
Or everybody's haircut, right?
Actually, one thing that I don't know if you knew, we raised $38,000 for me to shave my head.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so we raised that money for the food bank, and I had a very shiny forehead there for a while, but it's almost grown back in.
That's impressive.
Yeah, no, it was really good, and actually, I should be getting another donation in a week or so. So, we live in an incredibly supportive community, and people want to make sure that they give back, especially for something like the food bank. It's such an important project.
Not just the food bank. I mean, throughout, if there has been one, I guess, positive that we can take away from COVID, no matter what municipality that I've been speaking with, it's just how residents have pulled together throughout an incredibly difficult time to help seniors, to help people that couldn't get out, those whose immune systems were compromised. And Uxbridge is no exception.
Certainly not. We live in the best community, and it's been so exciting to see so many of our residents giving back and supporting those people that have been on the front lines of this pandemic, whether it's healthcare workers or people working in long-term care, or the people that are working in our grocery stores. Everybody seems to be pulling together. The other really positive thing I've seen is people are outside way more. Kids are playing outside again. You see people on bikes and hiking, and one of the big issues that we've experienced during the pandemic is additional traffic in our recreational facilities, and it's a great problem to have. People want to be in Uxbridge, and they're happy to be here, and then a lot of them are moving here as well. So you can't even buy a house in Uxbridge right now. It's so in demand.
Okay, on that, I'm going to have to stop you there because we are out of time. Uxbridge Mayor Dave Barton, thank you once again for spending time with us.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Okay, and thanks to you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Deborah Hutchison. Stay safe, everyone.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
It's never been done before.
Mr. Blake.
You can't see down with that thing.
Mr. Blake.
Jacques, what?
They're coming.
Hold them up. Find something. Jacques, I'm telling you for the last time.
Are the Canadians finished? His plant coming back on the ice. Come on, give us something, will you? How many stitches? Gentlemen, please.
Tony,